on your Whiskey Talk tonight for Whiskey Talk episode number 6. We'll get to everybody here in the first few minutes, but we're going to have a little bit of time here for folks to fill in. But this is, oh, look at that. That's very meta that you have all of that. It's media inside media. But this is probably the most important, exciting Whiskey Talk episode since the one that launched it. And I personally feel like each one's gotten better and more interesting and more fun and all those things. But this is a special little whiskey baby that we're holding in our arms tonight, because this is our single barrel selection show. And as such, we have a special guest riding with us tonight. I'll introduce him in just a second. You see Ben there, just wave, Ben. Ben is trying to get us up and going. He's also the producer of Whiskey Talk, as well as one of the panelists. He makes sure that we're up on all social media platforms. Hello to Ben and Skin Facebook group. Hello to Balcones fans. Hello to the DFW Whiskey Club. We'll get to you nice guys in a minute. Hello to Eagle fans, Rockaholics, anybody that's tuning in. Hello to all of you guys. Now, if this is not your first dalliance with Whiskey Talk, you'll notice 2 other familiar faces besides Ben and mine. I'm Skin Wade, by the way. Hello. The man, and he's always got just the illest hats. He must have the coolest haberdasher in town. Give it up for my man, Alex Elrod, marketing guru, man in the streets for Balcones. How we doing tonight, Alex?
Good. Just happy to be here.
Thank you for putting this special program together. We'll get into all that in a middle. And I know everyone's screen is different, but at the bottom of my screen is the man with the dope beard that makes this all happen in its most magical ways at Balcones. It's Jared Himstedt. Hello, Jared. How are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
This is very exciting. And for those of you that are new to the party, he's probably a familiar face to a lot of DFW whiskey fans and connoisseurs, but he's new to our program. It's Raymond Taylor, who is, I guess, are you head admin for the DFW Whiskey Club? Is that a good title?
Yeah, well, there's 5 admins that run it together, but I and another friend are the last men standing from the ones that started it in 2016. So, sure, I'll take a little bit of the title.
Right on. And you're doing this exactly right by posting up in front of a nice selection behind your head. That's the proper way to do this. So you're already a wily vet of Whiskey Talk, episode 6. Before we get the proceedings going, I would like to let my man Ben take the stage for a minute, because Ben, I've been running my mouth, but you and I have been talking. This is a special night for me and you, because Balcones and the DFW Whiskey Club and Alex and everybody has done something really special for us.
Yeah, these unbelievable packages arrived, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the history of ever. And it's like in a movie where somebody has like a very valuable briefcase handcuffed to their hand, you know. It's unbelievable to that degree. It's almost like the Pulp Fiction briefcase, and it arrives, and you look in here, and it just looks like heaven. And all along our journey, I've thought, you know, Skin and I have been doing radio shows now for almost 20 years, you know, and I keep thinking somebody's going to walk in and go, "Hey, idiots, get out of here. How'd you sneak in here?" And I think this is almost the apex of that, because we're not qualified to get this. This is a gift beyond our worthiness. And I could not be more excited about tonight. I feel incredibly fortunate and lucky to be here. And I just cannot wait to let this unfold.
Well, Ben, that's a great jump off. Alex, why don't you kind of give us an overview as to what we're going to be doing tonight and why it's happening? Because I feel like you kind of are sort of the man that made this happen in the first place in a lot of ways.
So we are going to walk through 6 different incredibly unique samples of whiskey. And this is going to be a little bit of a peek into, Raymond's got tons of experience doing this with DFW Whiskey Club. And he's, you know, he and a bunch of other folks have selected casks from us before, which has been really fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to walk through 6 samples together, one by one. We're going to talk about them. You know, we're going to smell them, taste them, share information. We're going to grade them together, analyze them. And ultimately the goal is to uncover what we believe is our favorite rumble barrel in honor of Ben, and then our favorite single malt barrel, in honor of Skin. So it'll be the Ben and Skin selection that we'll launch, 60, 90 days from now, which is pretty cool. Raymond, of course, is going to help us by give us some insight into kind of the industry from his perspective. And I'm excited to walk through these because most importantly, or in the sense of being the most fun, I don't know anything about these. Jared went on, there's only 4 floors in our warehouse on site. He went to some like 5th floor secret locker that only had like blood tests and it identified his or something. And I don't know what these are. These are barrels that Jared is graciously allowing us to dissect and pull from. So these would normally be options that we would showcase. And so I think these truly are a fantastic way for folks out there to be able to see what we do on a somewhat of a regular basis and really highlight the unique nuances and the true innovation of Balcones and ultimately what Jared is paving the way for in the way of whiskey. So it's kind of long-winded, but we're about to go on a fun little whiskey journey through these vials. So
this is a journey into sound. Actually, it's a journey into taste. Raymond, you've done these sorts of things before. So before we kind of get into the process of this and start dealing with the rum cask, why don't we get some perspective from you about the specialness of this? People don't get to do this sort of thing very often. This is a really neat deal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And I'll start off just right off the bat. And Ben showed you guys already the packaging. And I told Alex this, and I don't know if Jared's heard it yet, but I have, throughout the couple of years now, we've been running the DFW Whiskey Club. We've done countless barrels, well over 50 barrels at this point in time. And, when you look at this packaging right here, I can tell you the other big dogs, when you don't go to the distillery, when you actually have samples sent to you, a lot of them sometimes will just come in a cardboard box, but some of them try to do something and execute it like this. I'll tell you right now, I have Jack Daniel's box in there. I have a Woodford box in there. I have a Knob Creek box in there. None of them touch this. So anyone watching who works for those companies, you have your work cut out for you for these Texas boys that are showing you how to package these for us who are buying a barrel from you. So right off the bat, Balcone is killing it with the packaging on that. And then the opportunity to be able to do something like this it's so unique. It's so special. Not everyone gets to do something like this. Us in our club, we try to integrate and bring in some of our members on each one of our picks, bring the green guy in, show him what this experience is like, get one of the admins in there and then get someone who's experienced and maybe subject matter expert in that distillery. And usually that's what leads to a perfect balanced barrel for you and the people that you're selecting that for. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about this opportunity to do this with you guys, with Balcones in this setting, especially.
Yeah. And Raymond, I think it's going to give some of mine and Ben's listeners that maybe don't know much about being a part of a whiskey club or something like that, a chance they're going to want to join or be a part of what you're doing after this. So if folks want to get out and be a part of the DFW Whiskey Club, how can they do that?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook. We're now a public group. You can find us just by searching for us on Facebook. There is a questionnaire. That's the biggest thing that we have a problem with, is making sure that when you click to join, fill out the questionnaire. We want to know a little bit about you. We want to know you're a real person and you actually like whiskey. In fact, you guys have it for your own Facebook page, your favorite moment, Ben and Skin. So similar deal, fill that out for us. It makes the vetting process a lot easier. We've grown substantially over the past few years, and I think it's for the good. And, little things that you wouldn't expect, 4 years ago with a couple of hundred guys, I could have never pulled off what I did today. But right before, like a few hours before, y'all were still talking and you announced your beer that you were dropping tonight at Roller Town. And your new and in slushy form as well. And I had a guy all the way from Salina.
Oh, no way.
How is this happening?
What?
All the way from Salina, hand delivered in a Yeti for me so that I could drink this with you guys and support Roller Town tonight. So that's what this club's all about, but we're beer nerds too. So it worked out great.
God, this thing is off to a rip-roared start, man. Really, really. Okay, well, I would like to pull Jared into the fold now. I think we should probably, do you guys have any other things that you think that we should set out before we start taking our journey into the Rumble cask barrels that we've selected over here?
I was just gonna say I known these guys for a while. We've been doing the show together. We've met up out of town, and I see Alex go into his fridge and pulling out Roller Town cans, and I just want to go on record as saying I've never tasted the shit.
What?
I mean, I don't. I've got a hat.
That's your fault.
I've got a sweet hat. I mean,
That's the equivalent of my parents went to Vegas and all I got was this crappy T-shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
that whole
yeah,
thing.
forgot
Well,
you at home. Landed
yeah.
before they realized they'd left you at home.
We did open in a pandemic, and we only have we don't have a canning line. So the first 7,000 beers we canned one at a time with an October Seamer. Had our kids in there filling out labels and stuff. It was nuts. But we now are finally well stocked, and we know somebody who makes that run from Dallas to Waco quite a bit. We're going to send you quite a bit of beer, my friend.
No, I saw Alex yesterday. Alex was here yesterday, so it's not. Raymond's the only one who's off the hook here.
So before we kind of start going down the Rumble path, Jared, why don't you kind of give us some insight as to what you did to make the selections on the 3 barrels that we're going to be tasting from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you work in blending and sensory analysis, trying to make decisions on what ends up in the single barrel kind of portion of your spreadsheet, you know. We're all constantly looking for things that we want, like that I want to put up in front of house, or as time goes on, we get to know these groups a little bit better. We kind of have ideas of like, oh man, hey, that's too good to use in a blend. That's a really dope barrel. Either because sometimes it's because they're quintessential. Like that is exactly what Rumble is supposed to be, but it does it so perfectly. Sometimes it's because they're weird and it's like, oh man, that's Rumble. But it's like, that is a bizarre, and somebody's who likes that product would probably really enjoy seeing a weird, like kind of a side detour that some of the barrels end up taking, which is the whole reason you have to do blending to begin with. I mean, there's not really consistency. You make the profile that by selecting what barrels go into bottlings. But so this one was a little bit easier. We had a bunch of stuff out. I knew we had talked on the phone a few times, and we knew with Ben that we were either going to go the blue corn route and go with something either in the blue corn bourbon or true blue or something. And then he threw out Rumble, and it was like, well, yeah, that's actually out on the table right now. Easy peasy. So let me spend a few days rummaging through what we've got and try to find some that are cool in some way. And then of course, again, we're always talking about being malt guys. So same thing. We're constantly pulling out special stuff that's just to check on it. So these are things that were slated for, just to be looked at. Hey, we haven't looked at fill in the blank in a while. Let's pull that stash of barrels and just kind of see how they're going, take notes. And we had a lot of weird projects out. So we had some of the funnest stuff was out on the table that we get to look at every year. So I just kind of had a little fun with it, tried to make sure it was diverse. It's going to be fun. I'm assuming we're going cast strength with these. I don't know if that's been discussed, but I assume that was the case.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that as we're going through them, we might want to cut, we might want to dilute. It does help sometimes with nosing some stuff, even if you're not going to bottle it like that. Or it might give you an idea that even if you bottle it cask, that for your palate, you might already know, like, oh yeah, it's cool at cask, but I know I liked it with a little bit of water or a ton or whatever. Plus it gives us a chance to kind of play with, if you're just doing a few drops at a time, a few milliliters at a time, you can kind of watch some things change that once again will inform you once you actually get the bottle and get it open and how you think you're going to best enjoy it. So yeah, we don't have slushy sidecars for everyone. It's supposed to be in the kit. The kit was not quite complete, but
Not bad.
Well, what do you guys think? Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ooh, look at that.
it's a fancy card. This is what comes in that kit that Raymond was talking about. We got a little card for each one of these bad boys. Show them what you got there, Benny boy.
11693. Yeah, I think it's important to note that these were pulled straight from the barrel. So there hasn't been any dilution. These are at cask strength, full on. So I mean, there's no telling, but on the low end, maybe 56%, maybe, and on the high end, 65%, maybe a little bit higher. So these are going to be pretty high octane. So We usually encourage folks when visiting the distillery or when we have tastings to always pre-pour. If you don't have the availability, that's okay. I think everybody that's joined us has always seen us, trying to help encourage it to open up a little bit, but water will help do that as well. I know Jared's spoken about, adding water to malt, especially it takes well. I think it's important to, again, note that because these are so high proof that it's good to sip like tea once you feel like you've got a pretty good nose, right? I mean, Raymond, I don't know how, like, are you just full on? You just want to, how do you feel about like taking on cask strength?
I completely agree with you, man. My favorite way to do it, and of course, no one way is the right way, by the way. It's just something that's worked well for me is, I like nosing through all of them before I even taste one. Some people kind of nose taste and everything, but I nose them all. I want to know what the differences are just right here with this guy first. And then I come in with my little tiny tastes. And just like you said, man, just a little bit of a sip, follow up that second sip, get you those extra flavors, and then on to the next one. So that's at least the way I like it.
So let me make sure I understand. You want to go ahead and pour all 3 selections now and start nosing them before we taste any of them?
So I poured all 6 of mine out already so that they can actually get a little bit of airtime as well.
What about if we're coming in to crack these little bad boys? Should we go ahead and crack them now or before we actually taste as opposed to nose?
I mean, I think the tiny amount of dilution, which we've talked before, which is pretty common in Scotch. There's literally people that water's going in before anything's happened. They're not even going to check it. Like they're going to crack that thing with a couple drops. And I know, Skin, that's how you drink. So yeah. I would do what you normally do. And that would be my advice to anybody doing a pick like this or doing a blind with friends, whatever you normally do. Like the less you can alter that, the more reliable your take on the sample is going to be. I've even talked to guys that like, man, I never drink whiskey unless I'm smoking a cigar. And they like think they can't do that because they're about to do like a more intensive sensory analysis. And I'm like, if this is literally going to be the first time in years you've had whiskey without a cigar, it's going to be crazy for you. Like I would say, do it how you do it. Like that's how you're going to enjoy it. Then that's probably how you should pick it.
That very much reminds me of my freshman year at UT. My government teacher told the students, if you get high while you're studying, you should get high before you take the test. That's really probably the best way to go about it.
Hey, I have a question for you. So just in terms of these numbers, I'm curious about what they mean. So when I see 11693 and 22006, is that literally the 22nd thousandth barrel that you guys have made, or what is the significance of the numbers?
Yeah, the barrel numbers are just sequential, which isn't really that helpful. If we were a bourbon distillery or a rye, if we only did American styles that require new oak, those numbers would be helpful. But because we have so much reused stuff, it can still kind of give you a little bit of an idea. So like this second RCR cask is 9619. So that's a barrel we've had for a while. And then something in the 20,000 range is going to be newer. But it doesn't really, if I go up and find like the highest number we've got in the warehouse, that doesn't mean much because, 30-40% of our production is going into reused barrels. So barrels get used and then used and used and used.
Okay. So I have a new question about the selection process as I'm going through and nosing all 3 of these. 19 and 93 are vastly different on the nose. So were you trying to get a pretty wide variance as you were making these selections, or what is the process on it? Because they smell completely different to me.
Yeah. I'm not going to give away much until later because I want us to appreciate them for what is there.
Yeah.
Not expectations, which sometimes can happen if you know what kind of oak it was or how old it was, or if it held something before and all that. So yeah, there's an intentional diversity here that,
Nope, that answers. That's good.
A couple other, without doing like, I can't remember now how much like 101 stuff we've done on shows in the past, but, for some basic nosing, encouragement, start far away, especially. I know sometimes for Ben, you talk about some of the higher octane stuff being a little tough, and you drink on ice a lot, which again, these aren't judgment things, but knowing how you normally go, start farther away, come in. Another trick you can do is nose with your mouth open. So then you're getting air from both, and it's equivalent to kind of like diluting, and it'll be a little bit less burn. Luckily, physiologically, your palate gets fatigued and worn out and kind of stays worn out. Your nose can recover really, really, really quickly. So when you're feeling like literally feeling the inside of your nose kind of burning on a higher proof, you're sniffing a little bit too hard, too fast. All you got to do is kind of slow down. You'll feel that go away. And as soon as it's gone away, those receptors are kind of done freaking out. Another little trick that I'm sure we've talked about is to, some people do coffee. Some people have other things that they know are really a big contrast to the samples in front of them to kind of refresh with. But your brain registers your smell as white noise, basically, even if you're super funky, Ben. So if you smell yourself, if you feel like, man, I'm kind of like, these seemed real different. And then the further you go, you're getting a little, your nose is getting fatigued and you're like, oh, they're starting to kind of smell pretty similar. And you know, they're not, they weren't 2 minutes ago. One of the easiest things is just to smell. You just put your arm up, give your skin a smell, and then you can go back to it.
Yeah, you can go that route. You can go the Saturday Night Live skit, and get it back up in there. Either way, it cleanses,
yeah. Right? If you do that always, just be consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same with water. I do the same thing with higher proof stuff. I'll kind of drink a sip of water right before I go in for tasting. And there's just a little bit left on your palate. So just like a little bit of softness. But if you do it consistent, because then you skip one and you go straight from one sample to the next without the water, the alcohol is going to have built because you didn't rinse it off, and you're going to be like, whoa, this one's super hot. So it really doesn't matter. Like Raymond was saying earlier, there's not a whole lot of rights and wrongs. There's reasons why some things work and help. But one of the main things I think is to doing what you normally do. Yeah.
Well,
I'm so excited. So excited, dude.
Let me do a quick deductive reasoning thing here, Ben. On the tasting notes card, for each barrel, it has these boxes, and then you will see that it says nose, and that it says palate, and it says finish, and then there's a score box. So the novice or the rookie is going to say, all right, are we giving this thing a score for the nose, a score for the palate, and a score for the finish as we go? And then you have a final score. What is the process on this?
And once again, that's a pretty personal thing. I've talked to people over the years. We may have even talked about him, Raymond, but Doug Phillips is famous. All the Doug's Green Inks picks that are just legendary, multiple thousands of dollars a bottle if you can even find them. I was hanging out with him in Kentucky probably 6 years ago, and we were talking about this very thing. And it's super interesting to see people who know their whiskey preferences really well. I lean really heavily on nose. And maybe that's coming mostly from a Scotch background where like these things are intentionally blended to be super, super aromatic. And not that the palate is meant to disappoint, but if they had to, probably most of those master blenders, if they had to say, man, I'm going to emphasize the nose, like the nose cannot be wrong. And so for me personally, like as long as the palate kind of delivers what I expected from the nose and doesn't really let me down. And I'm also not a real big finish guy. So it starts strong. I'm already pretty predisposed to be pretty content with what comes after, unless there's just a real weird left turn. But he was saying he was kind of the opposite. He's like, man, if I got a 7 or 8 on the nose, then I want the palate to just be a 9, and I want that finish to just be killer. But that's just kind of like, he wanted his expectations to keep being notched up.
Right.
So yeah, everybody, it's just so personal. I will say psychologically, there's some weird stuff around doing blind testing and scoring. If you are going to do numerical scores, I would recommend a scale of 1 to 9. Okay. 0 and 10 never get used. You're very hesitant to say something is perfect, but for some reason, 9 doesn't feel like the top. But even if it is the top, you could actually find yourself giving something a 9. And that doesn't feel like you're saying it's 100%. There's no flaw. It's the best thing I've had in my life. If you want to add them up, same thing. If you prefer any of those categories are more important to you, then you weight those accordingly. It doesn't have to just be like, oh, I'm just going to average these out or add them up and then the winner wins,
Yep.
So.
Man, this is fascinating. I can't believe how different they taste. I'm so excited because
I haven't tasted anything yet.
Oh yeah.
I was worried. I was worried that I wasn't going to pick them up. and that I wouldn't pick up the smell or the taste, the difference. And so I've been over here smelling these things like crazy, and just dove in and took a couple sips. And it's really cool to see how the nose and the palate, that it can be so different. To me, the first one, 11693, is a million miles away from 22006. Like night and day. It doesn't even taste like almost like the same type of drink. Even it's so cool to see that type of variance. I mean, this is so much fun.
Yeah, and all of these started their lives, if you will, as the same. So Rumble, if anybody remembers, we've talked a little bit about Rumble. Of course, this is the cask strength single barrel version, but Mission Figs, turbinado sugar, and wildflower honey. So it's a very unique spirit in that it's technically a distilled spirit specialty, which I think Jared kind of said. I think it's Jared that says it best. Is that's the TTB government essentially saying that this means miscellaneous, right? And that I kind of view this as like a rum brandy hybrid. So a lot of rum heads can kind of be pulled in with this, and then a lot of brandy folks that like brandy and Armagnac can be like, oh, whoa, okay, I've tasted some of this before. And then really because of a lot of the really intense and rich oak profile, a lot of bourbon drinkers and sometimes even malt drinkers tend to really love this whiskey. It's like polarizing, but a lot of folks that love some of that subdued fruit, a little more of those varnishy qualities, especially if anything is finished. It's reminiscent of some older, more mature, wonky, sherry finished single malts. So these are, I think you said it best, like they are completely opposites. It's hard to obviously explain that to viewers that aren't tasting along, but it's they're quite polarizing. Even the nose on all three of these, I'm already like, damn it, are we allowed to cuss here? I don't remember. Are kids watching?
I don't give a shit.
Oh, shit. Yes.
I think every week I avoid it, and then about like a third of the way through, half the way through, Skin says something. I'm like, oh, right. Every week I think this is like going on PBS.
I'm not going to judge you if you're sitting around with your kids watching a whiskey tasting program. I mean, I think it's kind of badass. My dad took me to see Stripes when I was 10. I don't care. But if your kid's going to be sitting here doing a whiskey tasting with you, he can hear the word shit. It's okay.
He does it, after all. So, but yeah, these are really fun. Ben, Ben, am I allowed to put you on the spot? What do you smell on the first one? 11,693.
Okay. All right. So again, I this could be crazy. So I could get this completely wrong, but to me, the nose on 11693, the first one, and the second one, 9619, were similar, and 22006 was an outlier that was not as similar to those two. The 11693, the first one, it's got this it's got a sweetness which I freaking love. It's just and I know we've learned a lot. It's fascinating to we've talked about this. You can know something, but can you articulate it, and can you use as much detail as possible? So I apologize. I'm sure I'll fail in that regard. But there's the smell, the first sweetness. It reminds me of honey on a sopapilla. Like when we were growing up, we would go eat. We'd go eat at this place called Ponchos, and we've talked about it on the show a lot. And you raise the flag when you want more, and you're going to end up hitting a toilet immediately after. The best part of it is the sopapillas. The sopapillas are clean and light, and they're hot out the oven, and you just put that honey on there, and the honey, when it mixes with the sopapilla, just erupts in this baked sweetness, and it's one of the sweetest sensations of my life, and this takes me back to that moment. So the first one, I'm just getting overwhelming sweetness and honey.
That was awesome.
It was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo! That was, like if anybody's seen the movie Hook, when they're like, "You're doing it, Peter," whenever he's finally like using his imagination.
I'm riding my bike. I'm riding my bike.
Yeah. And it's just like, yes, you're doing it, Ben. Like that's great. That's awesome. Like there's a little bit of a savory but very sweet pastry that's going on here that I get a little bit of it too. I think that's super cool.
So before we hear what Raymond and Jared and Alex say, because I think, y'all have a more refined palate because of what you do than me and Ben. Ben, for the nose, I wrote down maple syrup, which is, I think, in the same family, what you're saying. Yeah. And then for palate, I wrote down cherry Coke. I don't know what it was, but there was something in there that made me think of cherry Coke.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. The maple, it's funny because Skin has this theory on olives. And he's like, if you add olives to anything, then whatever you're adding it to, it becomes olive flavored. And like you put it on a delicious pizza, now it tastes like an olive pizza. And I always think of maple in the same way. And so I didn't go to maple and say it in that regard, but you're exactly right. There is some hint of maple, but it's also just a delicious little hint of it. It's very sophisticated. It's not anything over the top hammering you with the flavor. It's just like, aha, I'm hiding in here. Do you recognize me? There's a little bit of that maple for sure.
What I love about both of you guys and way you described that, actually, I got a little bit about both of which you were talking about. And Ben, I feel like you're like a barrel picker Sharky over here telling us you've never done this before. And then you come up with these amazing notes. But I really, and I wrote some notes down here. I really did get the honey that you talked about and a lot on the nose more than I did on the palate. The backside though, on the backside of the palate, that's where that little bit of maple came through. The Skin was tasting as well. But I liked how you talked about the sopapilla too with the sugar. What it reminded me of, I got a little bit of fig in there too, but what it reminded me of was the caramelized sugar that you see on top of creme brulee. Not the creme brulee itself, just the caramelized sugar on top of that. There's a little bit about what I got on the palate with this versus the honey and fig and sweetness in the nose as well. And then a little bit of a maple finish, this barely there. I totally agree.
Where are you at on this, Jared?
No, I agree. I was there's another thing that is really interesting. Most people are good at one or the other, and then there's people that are kind of balanced, but some people are really good at comparative tasting, where picking out the differences between multiple things is easier than talking objectively about what's in each one. And of course, there's a lot of psychology around even the sampling order. So the order I picked tonight, which was not arbitrary, could easily affect our results. But yeah, there's kind of I'm getting some real cool floral stuff in all these, and floral's not my strong suit. But on this first one, it's pretty light, maybe more like honeysuckle-y. We've got a bunch of honeysuckle right outside our front door, kind of growing. I'm surprised. I was waiting to see if anybody else was going to mention it, have any citrus comments on that first one.
I didn't get there.
I did. I detected it a little bit, but I saved it for the second one because I thought it was even stronger in the second one.
Fair enough. This one's a little bit drier in the middle, kind of a little bit more scooped out than on the nose than some of these others. So I feel like the zest has a chance to kind of like the citrus peel stuff has a little chance to cut through because it's not kind of covered with as much wood sugar and other darker notes. So I didn't have syrup, but I had Manuka honey, which is a pretty dark honey. Probably a little bit less sweet and a little more waxy. The cherry is absolutely there. And the only other thing I was going to say that I think sometimes it gets weird and you hear enough other things and now your brain is drawn like a graph. And then there's some other component that normally would go with those things. So some of the things y'all mentioned, all of a sudden I couldn't help it but get the impression of like some sort of dairy component. You mentioned creme brulee and the fig, and I've eaten this a bunch together, but it's not it's not a stinky cheese. It's probably soft at maybe like a chèvre or something that I would maybe have with figs and maybe prosciutto or something like that. But there's like a dairy component that's also tart, maybe like a European yogurt, something along those lines. It's just like kind of underneath all that stuff.
Okay, so I was getting a little bit of dairy. I've just kind of been bouncing back and forth as we're talking, and I got a level of kind of a funky cured dairy. I think a little bit on all of them. I thought the second one, to me, it was the dairy kind of, or at least kind of a funky quality in number in our second one here, 9619. But then I got that dairy quality very heavily on the last one as well, along with some other things. But I wanted to make sure to highlight that I honestly have no idea what is that anything that you specifically know, Jared, as to why that would be present? Because I didn't think that, but
A dairy impression?
yeah.
I mean, it comes up every once in a while. I mean, obviously, with not boiling anything with our process, there's going to be lactic bacteria, LAB, leftover lactic acid bacteria from all the grain that do survive the process. And, we do longer fermentation to encourage lactic acid buildup. Not that lactic acid really reminds you of dairy, but it can remind you of like tartar dairy stuff, especially cultured things like yogurt that will have, a lot of lactic acid in there with the dairy components. And I think there's a lot of soft cheeses that have that acidic component, and depending on how they're processed, some are actually processed with like citric acid and stuff. So I think it's the right combo of like some funky phenolic stuff, and then if the acid's right, your brain can kind of flip that switch. Which I was going to say too. The last two things I wanted to say about this one, nose and palate wise, I also do get some really cool varnishy leather things, some like really nice solventy stuff on the nose. Not quite mineral spirits, but something not quite mink oil, something in that world that I got on the nose that I think is really fun. And then for someone who doesn't really pay attention to finish too hard, I do think there's a fun narrative quality to like the journey from beginning to end on any specific dram. And I really like the acid spike that happens on this, like the late, right before the finish, the late palate, you're about to swallow, you do. And it's just like, there's this huge acid bump before you kind of get to ride the wave out that I really think is fun.
All right, something unlocked there for me, and it's funny how these tastes and smells take you back in your mind to specific places, and it hit for me over the course of this conversation what I was not articulating, what I was hitting. There's a spiciness, but it's a sweet candy spice. It's not like Tabasco spice. It's a sweet spice, and I realized what it is. When we were growing up, we were a family that went to the movies all the time. And we all ate butter popcorn, except my brother, Jonathan, ate hot tamales. That's all he ate at the movies. He ate hot tamales all the time. And there's a hint of that because it's spicy, but it's super sweet spicy. So I'm detecting a little bit of that cinnamon sweetness spice of a hot tamale.
Ben, which one are you getting that on?
The first one.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm getting that. And this is the beautiful thing about being able to share like each other's thoughts. I was getting a little bit more of that overt kind of cinnamon quality on the second one, more than the first, for at least for me on the nose. I have added a little bit of water to all three of these. I haven't really spent much time with the third one. To me, at least to me, my palate, I feel like the second one feels like the proof might be higher, just based on mouthfeel and level of just kind of volatility. I don't know though. And I know I'm just kind of rambling through a couple of my thoughts. But yeah, these are.
So let me add on to what you're saying, because I just now tasted number 3 and I felt like the proof got higher on each one. The second one, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm tasting on the third one. That second one though, I had this really weird thing. Do you guys so on the nose there was, I don't know, some sort of like smoky chocolate bar kind of quality to that, but on the palate, and so also like sometimes on the finish, like there's certain ones I'll drink that'll never make it to the back of my tongue. And the second one stayed all on the front of my tongue in terms of how I felt it. I felt like it never got to the back of my tongue. But man, I got this weird taste on number 2, which is 9619. Whenever sometimes I get these allergies in my eyes, and I will take half of a children's Benadryl so it doesn't knock me the fuck out. And I tasted whatever that is. I don't even know what that is, but that's what it reminded me of. The children's chewable Benadryl that you taste, or that you take rather. If you take one of those, you'll just pass out. So only take half of one. But it's hard to describe. Like the smell was real distinct, almost like I don't want to say s'more because I didn't taste graham and I didn't taste marshmallow, but there was like a smoky chocolate quality to it. But then when I tasted it, it tasted different than the nose to me. Did you guys have any sort of wide variance between nose and palate on 9619?
I did actually, for sure, Skin. I feel like that was completely different from number one.
Yep.
I got into what Alex had said a while ago as well. He said he got a little bit more of that cinnamon profile. I wrote down brown sugar, which is, virtually, it's very close to that. At least for me, I get similarities there with that spiciness of that. I got a little bit of, instead of the fig, I got more of an apricot side to that with a little bit of a bitter finish as well. Not necessarily a bad bitter, but just something that was completely set apart from what that first barrel brought us with the sweeter notes. Which, by the way, I think you guys, all your listeners, talking about the dairy a while ago, I think Jared just hooked all the guys up who have wives that sit there with the wine and cheese trays. Like, they're set. Like, that's the barrel that they're going to be like, I need to buy that so I can finally drink with my wife and sit there with the cheese tray. So
Nice.
I thought that was funny as well. But yeah, two is a completely different animal for me so far on sipping it. I've taken only a couple of sips, but it's a completely different animal. I agree.
Yeah, I had the peach slash apricot. They're a little more cooked down. They're a little more, it's maybe not quite cobbler, but there's a caramelized quality to the fruit as opposed to some of the fresher, tighter fruit that was in the first one. I've had a note that there's a bunch of funny ones that we've used in house over the years that kind of belong to certain people. But did anybody ever have the Crayola markers when they were a kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be like fruits.
Yes.
But I've incorrectly used the phrase grape Sharpie, which of course doesn't exist, but it's a grape marker. It's the purple Crayola in that set for kids that I get a lot on certain rums. I get a lot from certain oak species, but I get it on here big time. And it's one of my favorites. Like, that's not a derogatory. The fucking grape marker, man, it's a solvent thing. It's a solvent, just beautiful thing to me.
I can't
Okay.
smell anything else now.
Exactly.
I totally smell that.
You get
All
it?
right. So that's what
Yeah.
you're getting on number 2, Jared.
Yeah, it's a note I
Okay.
love and I look for, but it's
So I would be real interested just in another aspect of your life, if you wouldn't mind indulging me in playing with that grape marker while taking a children's Benadryl and just see where it
Oh
puts
yeah,
you.
sure.
I think we might be in the same vicinity.
I can honestly say that my palate experience does not include children's Benadryl. Is that chewable? Is this liquid form? What do we?
No, it's a chewable. And
Chewable.
it's great because I'll get these and it's so weird because it was cats that would do it to me, and we don't have a cat anymore, but it still happens like once a month and my eyes get swollen. And if I take a children's Benadryl, it'll go away and I'll pass out. But if I take half of one, I can stay up on it. So just kind of weird.
Skin, have you tasted number 3 yet?
I have, and it is to me a complete wild card. Like if I knew nothing about this process and I just tasted it, I would think that it has nothing to do with the other two. It tastes wildly different to me than the first two.
I was also going to say that was aged inside of a cat, so you should be careful. Just kidding.
Finished in Benadryl. It's the liquid. We get we barrel age the Benadryl and then
Yeah, you've got to. It's the best way to experience it.
So I think the second one, 9619, is maybe one of my favorite alcoholic beverages I've ever smelt. It took the first one, the hints of it, and just went over the top even stronger into the areas that are strengths for what I like. The sweetness. I wrote down citrus. I wrote down brandy. I even was detecting some sort of blueberry. And there's like this faint, this is very strange, but like almost like leathery, like a brand new baseball glove. That smell when your baseball glove is brand new and you're breaking it in and you haven't sweated it or taken it out of the field yet, but it's broken in and ready to go. There's a slight hint of that, but this one to me is straight up heavenly. And then on the taste, it was similar to the way I felt about the nose, but also was picking up like a lemon candy, lemony something. It was just very sweet and smooth, and it just didn't, what you were talking about, where sometimes you smell it's harsh on the nose. You were talking about for me to approach it slowly.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was so welcoming in that regard. It was just like you just want to stick your nose in it and keep smelling it. So I fell in love with number 2. I just the nose on it was so freaking good. Probably wouldn't have mattered what it tasted like, but then the taste matched the nose on it and just blew me away. Just sweetness, just perfection.
Got 2 notes I wanted to make about that second one before we move on, assuming we're about to move on. Just because these are things that are odd, and I think people don't always pay attention to texture. Texture is usually functioning kind of like on you and less something that you're aware of. It's happening, it's affecting your perception of things like sweetness. But there's 2 things about this texture on this that I think are really cool. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, your mouth is sending normal nerve information to your brain when you're tasting things. Actually, more information is coming from the skin in your mouth and your teeth that send a lot of texture and feel information and pain, which has to do with the heat on some chili peppers or literal heat or alcohol burn, all function on the same receptors. But there's just as much of that going to your brain as there is tasting information. And so texture is kind of the lost thing that like your mouth sending your brain a whole bunch of info that has nothing to do with flavors while you have things in there. And I think this one's interesting because I get this impression sometimes where specifically the burn is almost prickly. Like, you ever have a wine that's like, man, is that starting to like, it's almost like it's starting to carbonate, especially if you're into like natural wines. Like you can have one that it's meant to be a still wine, but it's like, oh, that's starting to go. Like I get just like the tiniest hint of like a prickle. It's not quite a Pop Rocks kind of thing, but almost the tiniest hint of carbonation or something that I got on my first taste of that one, which of course went right into some of the bitters, bark, like a vintage root beer kind of notes I was getting on the palate with that texture going on. I'm like, man, this is fucking like a really cool, like boutique root beer. But also the dryness, we all agree this is sweet, it's round, it's sticky, but man, that tannin comes in at the end and just dries out, which is like always such an indicator for me of like things that are nicely matured. It can be too much, it can be over oaked, but there's something about tannin. They talk about wine all the time, giving it structure. Man, part of the reason it can handle being that sticky and not ride out and feel like just like a flabby, cloying mess is because it tightens up and it's defined in a way like right after all that gooey stuff, all that dessert stuff happens in the middle. And but those are both texture things. We can kind of taste tannin, and I've said this before, like overbrewed black tea is the easiest way to taste it, but it's easier to feel it. It's astringent. It kind of dries your mouth out. It coagulates in your saliva. And so at a microscopic level, it kind of makes your saliva kind of gravelly as opposed to like smooth and flowing, which is why it feels dry. It's because it's kind of got a grit to it. But anyway.
I'm getting a lot of friends that are sending me text messages, and they're really enjoying what's going on here. And so just kind of as a reminder before we segue into number 3, and then Ben has to go behind the curtain and be pulled a million different directions and figure out what he's going to choose. Let's remind all the listeners what happens, or all the viewers, what happens after Ben picks his barrel here. What is going to happen after that, Alex? How are the people that are watching going to get to experience that? You were writing notes and didn't hear a word I said. It's okay.
No, how are we going to experience what Ben ends up selecting?
Exactly. Once Ben decides which barrel he's going in on, then what happens for the folks that are watching that have an interest in tasting this themselves?
We will bottle it. Maybe even as early as next week.
Oh wow!
What? Really?
Seriously? I thought it was going to be much later than that.
Potentially. Whoa. I doubt Tommy is watching. He's our distillery manager.
Thanks a lot, Tommy.
Yeah, Thomas Moat.
I'm pretty sure he's in bed by like 6:15 or 7:15 every day.
30 to do like workout and stuff, and He's got a baby, like we all do. Anyways, no. So we'll get on the schedule, and then in 60 to 90 days, hopefully, maybe sooner, we'll release these to the public. And actually, we've I don't know how much we've actually discussed this, but we've actually gone ahead and we're going to partner with Goody Goody, which is
let's go.
local entity of the DFW market, which has a really great selection, really great leadership in their at the helm of all things Goody Goody. They've got 20 something stores, but eventually these will both be available there for folks to go buy. My stretch goal here, as we like to say in the sales department, stretch goal is going to be that this day we will be able to activate a round, and maybe we'll come hang out at one of the stores, and we'll be able to. I'll buy a bottle, and then we're gonna po it up, and then we'll be able to sample folks that want to join. All over the place, all over the Metroplex. Not as far out in the middle of nowhere where Raymond lives, unfortunately, because he chose to live
The best side.
Yeah, he's like further out in Salina, but on the west side.
Are you a Lido or something?
You got it.
All right. Shout out to Randy Galloway. Yeah, man. Right on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, that's the goal. If that's what you were looking for, Skin, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Because I know there's people that are watching right now. They're like, oh my God. And hopefully they're sipping on some lineage or something as we're doing this. But we are going to make this available, and that's really the fun part of all of this, at least for me. And I'm probably speaking for Ben a little bit there too. That's to be able to share something special with folks that listen to the show and actually take the time to correspond with you. That's kind of like the magic of all this for us. So,
and it's so great too, because it's almost like they taste it and they're about to hand the award to Jared. Jared, great whiskey, and we just rip it out of Jared's hands. Like, no, we'll take all the credit for this.
It's our barrel.
He made it all, but we picked the barrel, so we get to. So, no.
I mean, yeah, barrel selection and blending is the final act. Whiskey's not really done until you decide, if it's going to be a lone wolf or if it's going to be combined with some buddies or whatever. So, and the cool, yeah, I mean, we do this for work, and it's kind of a cool thing actually, knowing that you spend a bunch of time making things that other people are going to spend time with. They're the ones that are going to consume it. None of this gets, we skim off the top here and there on like really rad bottlings that come out and take a bottle or two home, but we don't get paid to make this for ourselves. It's
right.
Other, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it doesn't feel like stealing. It's actually like, no, that's when the story's finally finished, because that's what it's for. So yeah, it actually feels like you got an invitation in the mail. That's what it feels like to me is, hey,
that's awesome.
We're going to do some cool stuff. And whether you can make it or not, you're going to be there hanging out with us,
Well,
yeah.
Raymond does a hell of a lot of cool stuff as well. So I think now might be a good time to move to, we haven't spent a lot of time yet talking about 22006. So let's get some thoughts on that. Ben, obviously this is your barrel. So let's start with you. Kind of what was your experience with the nose on this?
This did not even taste anything like the first two in any way. If you told me it was a totally different type of whiskey, I would totally believe you. You can faintly detect that they're cousins, but for this one, it reminded me of back in the day when I was trying to woo my wife, and I'd get in the doghouse and I'd go by this badass flower shop, if you will. I can't remember what it's called. It's over off the tollway. Do you know what I'm talking about, Skin?
It was super low rent flowers.
No.
Is it not that?
No, it was back when I had a really good job and all I did was get in the doghouse. And so I was in there buying flowers. I was like Norm at Cheers, like, Ben, back for more flowers.
Who's it for this time?
It was like the best flower shop in Dallas. And it's really small, right off the tollway. And you walk in there and it's just like, holy shit, I'm smelling every flower in the universe right now. So it's overpowering floral, which is really refreshing in that but it's totally different. I'm not getting the citrus. I'm not getting the cinnamon. I'm not getting the sweetness. I'm getting floral. And then I'm getting kind of more of that. I wrote down almondy. I don't know, like dry almond, or maybe even more of that leather varnish, that we kind of kicked around a little bit. It's the polar opposite of the sweetness, and it's the floral and dryness and kind of leathery. It's just a totally different experience than the first two.
I thought the nose on this was almost abrasive, like it was almost visceral or sensational than it was just a straight aroma. It's an aggressive smell, and so it almost is like, Ben was saying, kind of leathery. I mean, it almost reminded me of like there's a rag that's been used in the garage and you're not sure what's on it. Like, it's a very, very abrasive nose, very, very aggressive.
So I'll tell you real quick what I'm kind of getting, and I'm in line with Ben a little bit there. On the nose was more approachable for me on 3, similar to the others than the palate or the finish was. But it kind of like, I'm going to go off of what you said with the flower shop, the cheap flower shop that you bought for your wife. I get a little bit of almost like the pollen, like when you're walking through a flower field and you see a little bee go up there and he takes a little bit, and maybe you were a kid and you're like, well, I want to put my nose and face into it too. And but it's a little bit of that pollen almost profile up in the front, with a hint of that bitterness that you might expect from that. But it's not overpowering though. What it quickly transfers to after that for me, for the finish, is I get like an old timer's tobacco pouch. Like, we're sitting, I don't know, I'm at the Waffle House out here in Aledo or something. This old timer gets done with his waffle, right? And he's sitting there and pulls out this old school tobacco pouch. It's not the red man that it comes in. Like, he literally stuffed it in his old tobacco pouch. Like, that's kind of what I'm getting on the back end for this, with that leather as well. Completely different from the other two. You're absolutely right.
It's almost like it's more like a tropical dark rum or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote a little bit of toasted coconut flan. At points I was getting like hay, like a little like kind of funk, like something is fermenting in the barn. Hay, faint hints of kind of a Peruvian molasses quality.
Okay, I can go there. Yeah.
Like very, very like treacle, syrupy, like very concentrated. I have a feeling I know something about this. This is dumb. We are navigating through some dumb casks, and I mean that in the most loving way, because these are so polarizing. These are cool. These are weird. Like,
yeah.
This is what one of those, like, this, the single barrel program is really fun whenever you're able to just ride this wave through some like really unique things that pull from different perspectives and spectrums. And so I've also bounced back and forth to the other two, which has been really fun, especially after this.
I haven't done that.
Always go back.
Yeah. Just nosing them, because then it's like, oh man, something else is highlighted that's a little bit different than what I was, the Peru molasses kind of quality here, with like that dark syrupy fruit quality. Now when I taste or smell number one, I think some of the like softer fruit quality that comes out of the first one that I don't know. It's really fun to be able to start smelling around.
Man, something about the third one too. It has like the finish is rye reminiscent. It's almost like I can taste a little bit of rye in it. That's kind of a rye finish for me.
I think like, we kind of throw around this term approachable. For my own palate and sensibilities, I think the third one is the quote unquote least approachable. The first one, 693, is almost just is like an after dinner dessert.
Yep.
Compared to, the way on this, honestly, dudes, on this third one, I had to taste it 2 or 3 times before I even really latched on to anything that I was tasting. Like, I had the sensation, but I was struggling to latch on to what it was I was activating by tasting it, if that makes sense. It kind of knocked me off balance a little bit.
I assume that's probably Jared being Jared. The way he orchestrated this lovely mess is that this is, of course, by design, right? Like
Right.
for viewers that don't know, again, I'm blind into exactly what's going on here. Again, we know we have 3 rumble cask single barrels and then 3 single malt cask single barrels, but Jared is intentionally designed for us to walk through these hallways and open these specific doors at this stage. So it's really cool to see like where we're going in this little bitty journey. So
And this is the highest proof, right? Number 3. Like, is it substantial?
I actually don't know. I mean, these are all casks, so until we alkalize them and actually run it and test it, we don't know what they are. They're all going to be probably 63, 64 plus, I would guess.
Okay.
So yeah, right off the bat, you guys just went a big round on this puppy, but it was potpourri for me, like right off the bat, just like it's nuts. Lots of leather, lots of like dark, like a cigar wrapper, like a Maduro wrapper, like super, like some stank on the dark stuff, but like in a sweet way.
Yeah.
I had a dark molasses, whether it's blackstrap, treacly stuff. I do a thing when I'm taking notes and when I'm kind of like, am I getting X? And I'm not really sure. Those words get a question mark behind them. And then it is a kind of a cue to me when I go back to like check myself and like, did I get that? But to me, this was all like blackberries and like currant and stuff, like a pie or cobbler that you like maybe maybe it even got a little burnt, you know?
Yes.
It reminded me of balsamic, like a balsamic reduction a little bit.
Wow.
And then, and nobody really mentioned chocolate, but you know, you get those truffles that are like dusted in the dry cocoa. Some of that was like happening on the palate and even in the texture, like the texture was so velvety and then it dried out into some chocolate stuff for me. But I had another cheese note.
yeah.
And this time, bear with me. This is gonna be a hard, semi-stinky hard cheese. So maybe we're thinking like Asiago or Parm. So
Interesting.
go back and see if that's something that is
Jared,
relevant.
that's I one of the first things I was flan,
Yeah.
which flan, right, is I mean very heavy cream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some burnt edges of something, you know, like
Yeah. And I think
a
that's
sweet desserty thing, but you got a burnt crust on the pie or something, you know, along those lines.
I think that's what was taking me back to thinking it was like a dark tropical rum, was that burnt taste that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which definitely implies like a blackstrap. Cool.
So Jared or Alex, or any of these finished by chance?
Well, so I should say, do we want to unveil anything unique about, or do we want to unveil any of the fanciful details?
So
Moving the malt, or what do we?
I mean, obviously you guys are all picking this together. Rumble made it into the lineup because of Ben. So, but also Ray, you and the club guys are on the line. Not on the line, but like you're invested as well. So I will let the two of you guys decide how you want to go forward. I have information, but I personally would probably I like going the route of like, I want to just decide based on what's in front of me. But I have age and barrels and all that stuff in front of me too.
I'd be real interested, just as someone that's fascinated by all this. I mean, I think this kind of really zeroes down to Raymond and Ben, you know, tag teaming this, but I would love it if we did this like a game show and each one of us wrote down the one that we would choose, just so we can hold up our card at the end to see if it matches what the think tank over there is doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's do that. That's great.
I know the two I'm choosing between, but I don't know which one.
So real quick, also Jared, to what you were saying on the finish, yeah, I'm all about waiting till after the fact. I wouldn't even want to know actually what they were finished in. I just feel that one of these, maybe two of these, could be finished in something, and that's kind of where my mind was going with it. So
yeah, I mean, do you feel like that'll help you, or?
No, it's curiosity, and what you're telling me is curiosity killed the cat, and I'm cool with that. Well, So no, it was just more of my observation of feeling that there could be at least one barrel that's finished here. But no, man, we can absolutely say that after the fact.
It's 1,000,000% up to you two.
And you know what's crazy too is as they sit here and you crack them with a little bit of water, they change and evolve. Like I went back to the third one again, and 20 minutes later, it didn't hit me the same way. You know what I mean? It's really fascinating in that way. Okay, do you want to throw up numbers? Everybody want to write down a number?
I'm not quite ready.
Now, before we do that, Ben, if you and Raymond would like to talk through some things, I think that
Yes, I would.
I mean, I just know me. I would be interested
would.
in hearing you guys talk through that.
I absolutely want to do that, and here's why. I want to rule out the third one for my particular taste because I love the sweetness, and I'm in love with both the first and second one, and I feel like they're both Hawaiian tropic models, and there's no losers here because they're both phenomenal. So for me, I'm kind of lost in the sauce, in love with both the first and the second one. And I don't want to even say which one I like more. What I'd like to say is I'll just rule out the third one. And then I'd like to, trust Raymond and his expertise with, the Whiskey Club. What you've forgotten more than I'll ever know about whiskey. And I'm learning on my journey. So if you'll allow me to rule out the third one and just leave the first two, I couldn't be happier with either of those first two.
Right on, man. No, I really appreciate that. And I'm humbled and honored for you guys even allowing us to be a part of this. And so I am on board with you on 3. I like 3 for what it is. It's not the one I would think that should be what you would want to provide for the listeners for being a guy who's a Rumble fan. And it's unique. And it's one of those that I can't wait to go back down to Waco and have Alex or Jared walk through and, hey, let's take a sip off of that barrel again and see what it's done over these last 6 months again. So I agree with you on Action 3, 1 and 2. I agree that we had pretty similar tasting notes on those as well. And one of the things that as I went back through and as I'm talking about this, I implore you to, if you have a little bit more of 1 and 2 in there, go the opposite direction. If you haven't already done it, just kind of side by side those and you can kind of pick apart something maybe that would want you to continue down the path with that one when you're in love with 2 of them. That's what I try to do. But one of the things I noticed that I didn't get to say earlier is part of their similarities. I get I put apricot and fig on these things, and I get a little bit of an apricot pie crust on both of them. But the difference in the two is, I would say, and this has to do with you and the listeners on what you think you would prefer, which is 1, I get the pie crust with a little bit of the actual pie still on it, down there at the end, you got the apricot there, versus 2, you've removed the apricot, but you still got the residue of that, but it's like the flaky pie crust flavor. It's a little more dry, like Jared said. That's what I get on 2. And both of those things are good. They're delicious. They're just different, delicious. One is nice and sweet and beautiful. And the other one is just that little bit more depth of and dryness is the best. Flaky bread is the best thing I can say to that. And you're right. They're good, man. It's tough.
Do you have one that, Raymond, that you like definitively between 1 and 2?
So if I have to pick,
Hold on. Oh, yeah, write it down. Write it down, and then Ben says what he wants, and we do the big reveal. Are you okay with that, Ben?
I'm going to let Raymond pick out because okay. I'm fine with 1 or 2.
Okay.
And I, if you pick 1 or 2, I couldn't be happier. I have one in my mind that I'm leaning towards, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings at all if I went 1, you went 2, or I went 2, you went 1.
So I just want to lean written down.
All right, I do too. I'm going to link.
Are we writing down barrel number or 1, 2, or 3?
1, 2, or 3.
Oh shit. Okay.
I wrote down barrel number.
I wrote down barrel number 2.
No, but we should be fair to the listeners. They don't know the barrel number. Let's do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I was imagining. I just keep thinking through. I think of sports stuff way more when I'm talking with you guys about whiskey.
Yeah.
But I'm just imagining the horrible dunk competition scoring thing that always happens. Where it's
yes.
Kenny Smith always looks like an ass.
What's his name from Chicago? I'm blanking on his name.
Michael Jordan.
No, new, like now, current.
I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
Levine, Zach Levine.
Yeah. But like when they always get to the spot where there's a couple of dunks in the last round that are like embarrassingly better than anything else that's happened, but they've already given out like 5 perfect scores and you can't fix it.
Yeah,
So-
and then they'll look over and they'll show Dr. J and he's looking at chicks in the crowd.
Oh,
There was something with Dwayne
man.
Wade last year.
Hold
I
on.
can't remember what it was.
so Alex, me, and then Jared, he's under me.
Yeah.
Are we also doing this experiment?
I think what we should do is I think we should leave it to Raymond and Ben, but I think we should hold up which ones we would have picked.
Do you feel, Raymond, that you know wholeheartedly which one is better?
I feel that there is a preference. I have a preference, just like you have a preference.
Yeah.
And kind of where my brain is thinking of this, like, and I'm also thinking about, the guys that, again, are in my club, because that's where my brain goes to. And then I say y'all's club, being a part of that as well now, kind of what they would also, I think, want. And of course, that's a hard position to fill because not everyone's the same. And so, but I would say the masses, I feel like I have a favorite. And that they would probably like it too. So what I think might be cool is if you and I hold our numbers up, and if they're different, we'll let the rest of the guys be the
Okay.
That's what I like that.
Fun.
I like that.
Okay.
Gamify this. Yeah.
All right. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh! Okay, I thought you two were going to have the reverse of that. I really did.
Yeah,
I was
baby.
not expecting that.
Hold up yours, Alex. What did you do? Number one. What did you do, Jared? Okay, hold on. Ben. So Ben, I picked the one you picked. I picked number 2.
Oh, what?
Nice.
So our buddy Jonathan, Ben's brother, he was texting. I don't know if you saw it, Ben, but he was like, "I'm number 1 all the way," and I thought I was number 1 very early in this. And I forget who said it. I'm sorry, but when you said go back and taste the others, because I was messing with number 3, and then when I went back and tasted the others, I zeroed in on number 2. And I thought I had been number 1 the whole way till the end until I started rebalancing my taste buds. That's so interesting. That's so interesting.
I don't think you can go wrong. I think they're both just freaking phenomenal. And they both are just overwhelmingly what I'm looking for. I would sip on either one of those all freaking night. I couldn't be happier.
So what do you want to do, Ben? Do you want to go with number 1 since those 3 badasses picked number 1?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, with no question. And then I'd like for Jared to send me that barrel, number 2.
Oh, you want? Yeah. So yeah, there's a dynamic that there's this gaming that goes on behind the scenes. Raymond's probably familiar with it, where we sneak some shit in there on you, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come in and taste 10 barrels. We sure would like to buy one, and we do our best to sneak the best shit we've got out on the table, and it's not super fun for the group. But it's fun on our end when someone comes to look at buy one barrel and they walk away with like 4. On a Saturday. That's we feel like we've done our job. But yeah,
and you have the I could not have either way, like I said, 1 or 2, and they're slightly different, but they're both just freaking extraordinary, and I absolutely love them both. I think our listeners, I think everybody in the Whiskey Club, they're gonna freaking love these 2.
I want to ask a question of you, Raymond. Why do you think the members of the Whiskey Club will enjoy the 693 over the 619, barrel number 1 over barrel number 2?
So in some ways that's kind of difficult to answer, but I'll try my best. What really won it for me with number 1, and I think that's what probably a lot of people that I drink with in the Whiskey Club is, it brings a little bit more of that sweetness, because so many of us are bourbon guys. And number 1 had a little bit more of that flavor profile that will attract them to something different like Rumble, because that's another thing that would be awesome here to accomplish, is that we have so many like hardcore whiskey guys and enthusiasts And not a lot of them are familiar with Balcones Rumble yet. And I think this is a good segue barrel into that. And it really did. It came out, the sweet notes, like I said, that's what won it over for me on 1 versus 2. And Ben's absolutely right. They're both delicious barrels, though.
Well, this is cool. This is really, really cool. I love that whole process. So if you are scoring at home, the winning barrel, which is going to be Ben Chosen, Ben and Skin Select 11693, barrel number 1. I guess I should. Is that coming out reverse?
No, that looks good.
It's good.
Wow, that was fantastic. Boys, are you ready for a completely different whiskey tasting experience?
You guys want to know what we had?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. All right.
Please.
So 11693 was in Virgin American oak for about 40 months. And then it has been moved to a used Buffalo Trace barrel for the last 18.
Oh,
So that's the one we picked. 9619 was full maturation virgin French oak for about 60 months. French oak is weird and cool. The third one, 22006, it actually had a weird reverse deal. We do weird stuff around here. So it actually started its life in Oloroso, not finished, started its life in an Oloroso cask for about 2 years. And now it has been in the used Four Roses cask for about another 2 years.
Wow.
So it's sherried, but not finished. We do this. We kind of end up flipping things where we'll put them in a wine finish to get as much of it as we want, and then put it back into bourbon to let it continue to oxidize and develop and estrify and kind of just round out when we know we've got as much of the sherry part we want. But sherry's funky, especially Oloroso. It can be stinky, and I was going to say there was a wet clay thing. We didn't quite get around to some of my weird notes, but it was an oddball for sure.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's great.
So what do you guys think that we should say or do before we start kind of going down the path of what we have here with these single malt selections? And maybe I'll ask that question to you, Jared.
Well, yeah, just like I said when we started, I know you guys, not ecumenically or, anything weird, but I know you guys well enough to know some of your drinking habits and preferences. And I know Skins, pick some single malts. There's going to be some obvious, not really curveballs, but there's going to be some obvious detours. I hope that they're obvious. They should be obvious, but I also know what you like. So this might be weirder than the first pile.
Yeah, well, I have been looking forward to this. And before you had gone in there to select these three, you had kind of given me a few options. And I was like, well, these things all sound pretty badass, man. So
yeah,
let's kind of dive in. If you guys want to start, and maybe you have, if you guys want to start the process of smelling these bad boys.
Jesus,
I just want to tell you guys real quick how I do feel bad for you because you don't have this delicious Roller Town Beerworks commercial break to cleanse the palate with. So,
okay.
the mango white peach.
Here is something I would like to say, because I know he's listening. I was with a gentleman yesterday with the last name of Rogers, and I asked him for that beer and how I could go about getting it. And he said, "Sir, it is not yet available, and you cannot have that beer." And I said, "I understand." I'll have to take that up offline with that gentleman. And it was not Ben, and I don't know Tony. So
he's listening. I'm sure he's listening.
I can't believe you hung out with Tony Rogers yesterday.
Yeah.
That's our other brother.
Walmart. It was weird.
He's probably watching this too. Okay, so immediately, can I just say another curveball, another insane curveball.
Sorry.
There's one of these three does not smell like the others at all. It's crazy.
So, okay, philosophically speaking, I just happened to look, someone asked, is cat food still cat food if a dog eats it?
Oh, That's a great question.
So I would just like to. We don't have to address it. It just.
I mean, is
So
it like the tree in the woods? Like, does somebody have to witness the dog eating the cat food, or vice versa? If there's no witness, does it?
I
did it
thought
even
you were
happen?
about to go full Ralphie Wiggum and say, "My cat's breath smells like cat food."
Hey, I want to say this to people watching out there because you're going on this adventure with us, but you're not necessarily having these. So it helps that it's a practice that requires great description. But after we'd settled round one, I went in and I hadn't smelled this second round.
Yeah.
And I start going through one by one and I start cracking up when I notice a massive distinct difference. The three of them smell completely different, but one of them smells unlike anything close to the other two. And I'm so fascinated by that. I think that's just awesome.
I think it might be the Detroit pizza that you were eating.
Yeah. By the way, listen to the Ben and Skin show on Friday. There's going to be listen every day, but Friday is going to be a pizza spectacular. And Ben may or may not talk to Bear Grylls. I mean, who could know? Who could know?
You guys know Bear Grylls?
I went fishing with him.
Spearfishing?
So we actually went to Red Lobster.
Hey, sir.
Hey,
Sir.
Hey. Wow.
Did you sit on the same side of the booth too?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a buddy who's lives in Austin. He does video work. Married to a good friend of mine's sister, but he worked on the Bear Grylls show for a while, and has told me some interesting things. And that's all I have to say about that.
Earmuffs, Ben.
No.
Earmuffs.
No, stop talking.
I just don't want
Okay.
you to see how short the guy
Okay.
behind the curtain is.
But here's the thing. He's out there in the wild. He stumbles across a zebra carcass. And you're like, hey, what are the odds? We had a film crew here. Of course, they set that zebra carcass out there and then stumbled upon it. But it still, to me, is just as good knowing that he crawled in the zebra carcass and started eating the zebra. It's still zebra flesh. So I still give him cool points.
Yeah. He still like zipped himself up inside the zebra.
Yes.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
And Solo style.
I was going to say Luke Skywalker did that shit. It was nothing.
In the
So,
70s, right? In the 70s.
It was the 70s, yeah.
It was a weird
so
time.
For anybody that's still paying attention, stream and not
Tauntauns. Oof.
hooligans, right? So these are all 100% Golden Promise malted barley, correct, Jared? Uh-oh.
Yep.
Okay.
No Texas barley in here. Yep.
No Texas barley, just Scottish
So,
Golden Promise.
We're basically going back to the whiskey motherland in some ways here.
Yes. There you go. Fantastic. And we are starting with 21190, correct?
Correct. That's what I have. Is that what you guys have?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
I've been doing nothing but smelling. I'm taking my first sip now.
So far, this is my favorite barrel that we have. The nose on this is my favorite of the, I know that was Rumble and now we're here in the Malt.
Yeah. Are you saying, are you talking about 1190?
Yes, the 21190.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just took my first sip and my tasting note is I would drink the shit out of this forever.
Yeah, this is wow.
God, that is good.
Yeah. This is the skin barrel. This is a barrel of skin.
It's a barrel of skin. Let's party.
Oh man.
You know what might be a good idea? I got these real bright lights that Ben convinced me I should get. Let me show the color differences here if you guys can see that. This is 1190, which is the barrel that Alex was just talking about, and also a very strong AM signal here in the DFW. Okay, see, this is the next barrel. This is 558. If you want to See the differences there.
Okay.
That's the first barrel. That's the second.
Are you detecting a massively different nose on the second?
Yes,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
without a doubt, Benny. That's the second one. That's the third one.
I'm so confused by 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Again, for anybody
Thanks.
listening that hasn't, I don't know anything about anything we're doing. I know nothing about this, and these are more confusing to me so far than the Rumble barrels.
So like it's real easy for me personally to write down for the second barrel 558 to quote write down super peaty, right? Like when you're kind of first getting into it and someone's saying this is what a peated whiskey tastes like, it's okay, this is really, really peated. But I don't know if anybody was getting this on 558 if you kind of separate that part out. You know the honey roasted peanuts? Is anybody getting
Are you saying penis or peanuts?
If you've ever had some honey roasted penis, and the interesting thing is it's exactly like honey roasted peanuts. It's virtually
Right.
indistinguishable.
It's hard to tell.
But I almost get on number 2 for the nose, I almost get a honey roasted peanut kind of vibe on that, which is
Okay.
barrel 558.
Damn it. Man, I can't unlock what it is. I recognize it.
558 is like what I just sort of identify as being very peaty. You know, whatever the things are that tie into those tastes for people. You know, basically this is like what a guy in 1870 drank when he had the flu. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, right. So the first one, 1190, I've heard you guys use this term approachable. This number 1 is approachable for me. It's number 2 is really harsh and unique, but I don't know what it is yet. And it may just hit me and I'm like, damn, that's what it is. But I'm not recognizing what the smell is in number 2 yet. And I know Jared's going to say it or one of y'all is going to say it. I'm going to go, damn it. That's what I was trying to articulate. But there's something that I recognize the smell, but I don't know what it is. But 1, crazy approachable, smooth.
Yeah, I was gonna say mostly because you degenerates in the chat here. This is just it really is real silky. There's a flow to it. It's very approachable, very drinkable, a little bit of a sweetness to it, very reminiscent of a recent game by one Luca. Beautiful, just nonchalant, blind between the legs dish.
Are you telling me that this should be barrel 34 and 19?
Ooh.
We go full Luca. You know what?
I just can't wait till he's legal to drink. It'd be so fun to like share whiskey with him,
We're bringing him to Waco. So going on a smell basis, when you have friends that are first getting into different whiskey and stuff, so maybe they're used to having it with Coke or they drink it on ice, or we've talked about this. However you want to drink it is great. The guy who really first sort of taught me some things about whiskey was like, it's your mouth. Drink it how you want to drink it. Don't listen to some other person. What do you like about this? But when people are willing to kind of start drinking things neat, and even when I say neat, I always these single malts, I crack them every time. I'm gonna do 2 or 3 drops of tap water. But from a smell standpoint, if I was pulling someone into this world, from the nose, I would have them go with number 1 over the other 3, because I think it would be, the word approachable or whatever. I think it would be an easier way to pull them into this world for the first time, if that makes sense. It's certainly not jumping into the deep end.
Yeah, I want to throw it to Raymond because I know he's a big malt fan, and I'll selfishly say he's a big Balcones malt fan. And I'm curious. He's got a little smirk on his face, so I'm curious how he feels about number 1. Or I don't know how many you've smelled, Raymond, or if you've tasted any. But I know you're a big Balcones malt fan. So yeah, just Mike is to you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I did have a smirk on my face, and it's because you guys have said all of the right things, right or wrong, the right things. And I completely agree with what you're observing with 1 versus 2. I've tasted 1 and 2. I've not got 3. I've nosed all 3 of them though. The difference in 1 and 2 on the nose is night and day. 3 is almost like your hybrid in the middle between 1 and 2, which is a little bit odd to me because as y'all saw, the talented Ben had all 3 of those held up in front of his camera a while ago, and 3 is the darkest one. But 3 had a little bit, in my opinion, had a little bit more of the tamer nose than 2, but still brought some of that single malt nose to it for me. But 1, you're absolutely right. It's nice. It's sweet. I got the pear profile that I tend to get out of some of y'all single malts.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. The dried fruits on the palate, they're there. It is so far, again, I've only tasted 1 and 2. And I've tasted a lot of the single malts that, Alex, as you mentioned, it is the least single malty of these 2 that I've tasted so far. And for sure, even on the nose, since I've nosed all 3 of them. And so from an approachable standpoint, you're absolutely right. Anyone that you wanted to bring into, hey, try this single malt from Balcones that maybe is not your single malt fan, this is a good approachable one versus your number 2. I'll go ahead and mention it since I tasted it as well. 2 for these guys, and this is where some of the guys who are Scotch fans are going to love it. It is very reminiscent of a beautiful space side.
Yes.
And maybe even Isles, and it's not so out there like your Lagavulins or anything like that, but it's wonderful. A Scotch head would literally be falling over in his chair tasting number 2. And of course, that's going to scare away your people who aren't single malt fans. And so that's the difference between 1 and 2 I'm getting at so far.
You know what that's kind of like. I'm not going to go into it because it's very, very long, but Ben has heard me tell this story where me and my whole family, we went on it was almost like kind of an anniversary because me and my wife got married in Maui, and we went back to Maui, I don't know what it was, 13 or 14 years later, and took our kids, and the former Mav coach, Don Nelson, pretty much owns half the island. And he took us on this fucking adventure that almost killed us. And so it's like, number 2 is like, oh, we're going to follow the gambler down this jungle path. In other words, if I'm trying to ease someone into something, number 2 is not the way to do it. And it's almost like if you're going to go down that path, it's like, hey, I want you to try something different tonight. And I don't want you to be, a little pee about it. That's kind of like how I would describe the number 2 experience.
Yeah, no, that's well said. For me, and again, I don't have the distinguished palate that you guys do. There's something smoky about it, not like brimstone, but like smoky.
Absolutely.
And I'm like so almost it's not this flavor, but it's a sensation similar to it. So I'm not saying it tastes like this. It's just got a hint of the same vibe I get when like maybe teriyaki, something like that, something dark, salty, kind of,
Interesting.
So I literally wrote barbecue smoke on the nose.
Okay, yeah.
I'm right there with you on number 2, and which kind of reminiscent of that brimstone. But for those who aren't into the extreme, I have brimstone up there, by the way. I love all of their products, but for those that I don't want to scare anyone away. For those that don't like the what brimstone has to offer, because it's just barely there of that barbecued smoke, like you're saying. It's a sweet barbecue. So teriyaki is a good way to say that.
Holy shit. I know what it is. It just clicked. So yes, there is that sweet, the barbecue smokiness, but also there's a tiny, tiny, tiny hint of this. I don't know if you've ever been around a house that burned down. It's just when the wood is completely burned, it's just got this unique smell. And it's just got like a 1/100000th of that, just that smokiness to where you can definitely taste the burned wood.
I do remember that weekend where you claimed that you were going to start a new career as an arsonist. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Ben, I'll give you my
generate money doing that,
Yeah, I'll give you my stamp of approval. Little known fact, I was a volunteer firefighter for 3 years, and I can back you with that.
Yes. Yes.
Burnt house. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Raymond will educate you guys on the beauty and ridiculousn's that is the tater sticker, but I think there's been some fun notes generated depending on what things get picked tonight. There's already some pretty good ideas for artwork.
I can't wait. I can't wait for your new bottle, the Balcones Burnt House Single Malt. I think.
So I think this is a good time to do this. So what for the Ben and Skin fans that might be in introductory fans, and even maybe for some DFW Whiskey Club fans that might have been new, Raymond, what does that mean? One tater sticker, but then also can you show us some examples of what that means?
Yeah. So, and Ben's got his little sample bottle there that I made for him and Skin, but I'll show you guys just real quick. For example, our Balcones Single Malt that we did, it's probably about a year ago now.
Yeah,
and
right.
This right here would be unrecognizable to Balcones fans. And it's because it doesn't come on the bottle from the distillery. You've got your back label, which gives you your barrel information. You got your front label, obviously, that's giving you about what it is that you have. And then this is what Alex just called, and what we call it in our group and really across the nation with whiskey enthusiasts, are tater stickers. And so it's a sticker applied after the fact, and it usually has, your club information on there. And in this case, we took a play off of Ocean's 11 because there were 11 of us that came to the pick, which is the most I've ever had at any pick, by the way. Yeah. But, Balcones is so accommodating. These guys roll out like 10 barrels. You need 11 dudes to be able to get through all of those. Like, hey, man, tag team, you're it. You go for this one. But so we have that, and it just adds a little bit more information on there. It makes it fun. And so some people kind of almost collect things just because of the tater stickers. I mean, there's you guys being sports guys will love this. There's a group that recently did one with the Bo nose, Bo Jackson, but it's got the shimmer on that. As you do the bottle, everyone wants it just because Bo nose is on the back of it, man.
Nice.
And if they were going to do that right, it would be Bo nose. And it's got a really great aroma to it that really just kind of sets it off. Right?
See, you're perfect to come up with the tater stickers for these. You're already set. Your mind's already there.
Trust me, Ben's going to be better at this than I am.
This is again, Ben. This is where my dream scenario comes into play with these majestic pieces of art. Mick, our friend Mick, who's in the mix on all some of these majestic things that he's created. With Light Farms Giant and the bottle clunking the dog, and Ben the best on the airplane. This is where Mick, comes into play with just the brain, the artist, to come up with something so unique that we'll be able to. I think we'll be able to come up with something really, really fantastic for each of these selections. Is my selfish hope that something so amazing. I don't know. We'll see, but I appreciate Raymond, holding up that bottle, talking.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's really cool. And we do have this artist, Mick Jimenez, who will be able to do something really cool for us. So that's exciting for sure.
So let me just say that based on, and I don't know how normal it is on a single barrel tasting to spend time with one particular, one particular style and then move to another one after drinking a little bit. But I do feel like that with these three that we're dealing with right now, we spent so much time on number one and number two that we didn't realize that number three likes Radiohead, dance hall reggae, and 80s rap. Like, we've totally ignored her, and she's got amazing taste. Like, what are we doing over here? Have you guys gone in? I know Jared has because he's a diligent man. Have you guys spent any? We spent a lot of time talking about what number one and number two smell like to us. Have you guys gone in on three yet?
I'm actually tasting it. Took my second sip, Skin, and
I haven't tasted it yet.
Right. Okay. Good. It's really good.
It's really good. And one thing that I mentioned this to Alex the other day, I was helping a couple of stores here with the selection that they were doing, and Alex threw us all kinds of awesome curveballs. It was so fun. But one of the things I mentioned to everyone there, because there were a couple of guys that had never done a pick before, and there was a sweet lady there too. But one of the things that I had mentioned was that when you're doing the selection, and in this case, a single malt, I'm the kind of guy that I love your curveballs to kind of set you apart from something. So it doesn't just taste like the daily, every day I can go buy the small batch single malt. So I like to find something that's a little bit out there, but I also want to find something that's on profile to what it is that I'm picking, because if I'm picking a rye and then I have all these samples in front of me and one of them tastes more like a bourbon, it's real sweet, even though that's approachable for bourbon drinkers, I got to remember that I'm there to pick a rye. And in this case, we're here to pick a single malt. So my brain always tries to also say, what's the best expression of the Balcones Single Malt that I also think is approachable and just absolutely delicious and sets it apart from the small batch. So just something to think about, like where my mind is when I'm doing these, if that helps you guys or anyone else that's listening when they get an opportunity like this.
Jared, you have not said one word since we've been down this path. Where's your head at right now?
He's pissed off.
I mean, I have the unique position of everybody on this call. Like I picked all these barrels. So, I mean, I'm kind of coming back to them from stuff I picked like last week. So I like them all for very different reasons. It's a funny thing. Like, I don't know if Raymond, if you go through this, but we definitely go through it with industry. You're drinking so often
Shit.
that I have to kind of acknowledge some of my own biases, and that we make what we make at our distillery. And so I kind of find myself, I can sometimes get overexcited about barrels we've got in house that are very not representative of our product line. And that doesn't mean they're better. It just means I'm excitedly like, this isn't what we normally see. So that's not really fair. It has nothing to do with objective. If there is such a thing as objective quality, it has nothing to do with that. It's just like, yeah, it's very kind of different from what Raymond was saying, which is like, no, I want this to be recognizable as a Balcones malt. At the same time, I want it to be fun. And I'm like going to gravitate to the ones that are like the most off probably, because I have to go through 500 barrels to put a malt blend together semi-often. What is he doing?
So I want to tag. I don't have any idea what Alex is doing, but I respect it.
Is he wasted?
He's proving that he's wearing pants.
He's wearing pants.
Yep.
I thought he was trying to show that his arms are as big as his legs. But
Optical illusion.
Yeah, he's a badass. So Jared, one of the things I wanted to say about this is when you're making a selection and you have these three choices, you kind of have to go into this thing about, accessibility, for lack of a better word. In other words, I get very, very excited when I meet someone that likes Jim Jarmusch movies, because you just don't meet that many people that go, oh yeah, I love Jim Jarmusch. He's fucking great. Stranger Than Paradise, I'll watch all the time. It's like, so I kind of feel that way about things that are very, very peaty. And so when someone says, oh my God, yeah, I love really super peaty stuff. Do you want to, by making these sort of selections, do you want to super serve those people, or do you want to widen the delta a little bit, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I feel fortunate when we do stuff at the distillery. Obviously, if we were going to pick a single barrel to put up front, they can just be whatever we want. I mean,
yeah,
the people that are going to come here and grab them, I don't really have to think too hard about. It's really just about us expressing our interests and things we find exciting.
Right.
With clubs or you guys with your show, obviously everyone's hoping club members and fans of your show go out and pick up some of these bottles, right? That does add a layer of complexity that I don't usually worry about when I do single barrels for ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, it's a tough call. I mean,
I feel like, I think we all kind of agree that 2 is in a category separate from 1 and 3. Is everybody sort of in that space, or no?
Yeah, it's kind of like 3 was in the first round. It's the outlier. It's the wild card. It's the curveball. And so it really comes down between 1 and 3. And 1 was hitting in the leadoff spot and just blew us all away because it's so good.
Right.
And then we got caught up in how unique 2 was. We slept on 3. And by the time we got around to 3, we realized, holy shit, this may be even better than 1. And so that's kind of the conundrum. I think it is between 1 and 3.
Is anybody getting caramel on number 3?
Yes.
I don't smell caramel, but I taste caramel. And it reminds me of my mom's dad, the great Metz Williams Papa. And dude, he would have a jar. He would sit in his chair and he would either be Texas Rangers baseball or golf. And he would look at the hummingbirds and he had a jar and he had those individually wrapped little caramels, those little chewables. And that was my shit, man. If I go to Gigi and Papa's, I'm going to stick my hand in that jar and I'm going to be doing those little individually wrapped caramels all day long. And number 3 kind of gave me that vibe.
Yeah. That was a
I
bold
like that you
move for a
pulled that
candy
out.
too.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm so confused by these.
Well, I think I think it would be very me to push number let's see, that's barrel number 2, 558 on everybody. But I really do think that more people broadly would enjoy barrel number 1 or number 3. That's kind of my perception right now.
I agree.
I feel like this is again, I don't know this, but this is, and again, we've done a whiskey talk a couple episodes ago where we spoke about Mirador.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Where are you going with that? Because my buddy texted me and I want to throw this out there. Thank you for bringing that up, Alex. But my buddy texted me and said that when we were going through these, number 1, he felt like looked a lot like Mirador.
Ooh, okay. Let's do it. I've got the bottle right here. Is it? I don't know. Is that?
Do you guys see that?
And I cannot hear. This one will have a little more liquid.
Looks a little lighter.
Looks a little lighter, I guess.
I think the bottle size is messing with your colors.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The size doesn't matter though, man.
Raymond, size does not matter. I just feel like this has characteristics that are very reminiscent of very reminiscent of Mirador. And when I say with that, I think a little bit definitely more obvious, I guess maybe even by the color we showed that a little bit lighter, but like really rich honey, honeycomb, a little bit of a waxy quality to it. Gosh, I love this.
Which one again, Alex?
Those ones that, like, to me, the nose on this is so just like majestic in comparison to everything. This might be my favorite nose of all 6 of these. So I don't know where that falls.
Number 1 is your favorite nose?
Number 1 of the single malts is my favorite nose of any of the 6 samples that we're looking at right now.
Yeah. I actually already drank all of it. So
It's special. Question. So yeah, so 3 is significantly darker than 1. What can be learned from that? What does that mean?
Barrel talk.
Yeah, once again, I don't know how much you want to know or not know, but even if I was blind, which I'm not tonight, but if I was
hold on. Before you say this, Jared, I think that Raymond should go earmuffs. Raymond, you go earmuffs. And then
You want me to walk away?
Yeah, walk away, and then Jared deliver the goods.
Well, how do I know when to come back? Do I count to 30 or something?
Count to 30 and come back.
Okay, fair enough.
Go ahead, Jared.
I was going to say, when you're dealing with a darker color, you're going to either have been in virgin oak for some period of time, or if it's a used barrel, it's a used barrel that just has a lot more life left. So I would expect more spice. I would expect more wood sugar, kind of a rounder, thicker middle texture to it. Maybe look for spice, maybe look for tannin, things like that in a darker barrel. Yep, that's about it.
Does that get you where you need to be, Benny boy?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm having a hard time picking between those 2. I think they're both like unbelievable.
These are both exceptional.
Yeah, come on back, Raymond. Come on back. Yeah, you can't go wrong. You couldn't go wrong with 1 or 3 here. It's just gosh, man, I'm trying to find the difference now.
It is so difficult as an older man to pick between J-Lo and Sofia Vergara.
Now, yes. Okay. So to Alex's point, I think the nose on 1 is exquisite. The nose on 1 is better than the nose on 3 for what that's worth for me.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like this is, I'm gonna start going into like details. Again,
Go.
I don't know anything, but I feel like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this third cask definitely has spent some time in New Oak for a very long time. And I'm gonna say maybe even French Oak. I don't know. It's just like there's something so much more like rambunctious and ferocious about this. There's something else that I believe about number three. But I don't know when we're gonna release fanciful details about these 3. But anyways.
Yeah, I know which one I like the most.
Okay. Have you, Raymond, have you zeroed in on anything?
I got to tell you, you're in a great position actually, because just like Ben was with the Rumble, to be able to have, 2 great barrels that you're going to be happy with either one. I feel that you're in an equal position almost here with the single malt. I'm leaning towards one a little bit more than the other, only because of my personal preference when I drink a Balcones single malt and what I would expect. But they're both unique and they're both special. I really like them both. If you're looking for something more sweet, that's where I think that you've got one. It's just that a little bit lighter, just like the color. And when and I didn't mean color when I said lighter, but it matches that. Versus the third one is the darkest one on our row, and it drinks just a little bit more bold. It drinks more like what you would expect from a single malt. And I think Alex is right. I think it's been finished in something, and I think single malt fans will really, really like that one as well. So, yeah, you're in a good position here, man.
So if I were to I was going to drink number 1 or I was going to drink number 3, you know how like Whiskey Cake will serve their brown with one of those little ice balls?
Uh-huh.
I would be way more inclined to drink number 1 neat with a drop or 2 and drink number 3 with one of those ice balls.
Ooh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's
Ice balls. That was Alex's high school nickname too. Ice balls.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
fantastic.
he was so great. I'm here to heat up that. Oh, I can't say it.
So I've got this here dropper. This is actually Skin's bathwater.
Yeah,
It sells online. It's very expensive.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm looking at that, Alex. That's the bath I took with Mike Tyson.
Yes. Yeah.
He bathes so seldom. It's a very rare.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
right.
Hey, Skin, I was going to ask you, when you were in Hawaii with Don Nelson, was he rocking like the big hat, and was he wearing buckles and the cowboy boots and the whole deal?
No. So Ben will tell you this. So when I was in Hawaii with Don Nelson, he had a mullet, a gigantic beard, and he played golf barefoot. It was like playing golf with a basketball yeti that liked to gamble. It was unbelievable.
That is so not what I ever would have expected a Don Nelson story to turn.
No.
into.
I'm telling
That's
you
amazing.
truly, it was, and my family's sort of involved in this. It was probably the greatest 3-day run of my life. I played golf with him. I went back to his poker room. We may or may not have done things while watching cable news. He may or may not have given all of his opinions about the world. And then he may or may not have taken my entire family to a cliffside waterfall that he once watched another family get wiped out by a wave and thrown against violent rocks. And I may or may not have been lost with a rent car thinking I'll never be able to get it back to where I rented it from. Who knows?
Yeah.
This was in Richardson, Texas?
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Go Bertner.
Yeah. It was Lake Louisville.
Yeah. Ooh.
Do you guys want to do the thing where Ben and Alex and Jared write down the ones they want, and then me and Raymond start doing some table talking?
Yep.
What do you guys want to do from here?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
I already got mine written. I'm ready.
Do you know what you're doing already, Raymond?
So I think I do. And I'm hesitant to say what I want to say because I think it'll give the barrel away. And I do think I know some of the other guys are choosing, which might be a little bit different. But one of them, again, I gravitate to as more of a fan of the Balcones Single Malt. But something, if people were paying attention earlier, here's your giveaway, okay? And I apologize because I'm kind of giving it away. I'm a sucker for grandpa stories. Right before you jumped on, I was telling Alex how his hat is just like the hat that my grandpa wore, and you described one of these as something that reminded you and gave you a memory back to your grandfather and that flavor profile, and something that is, and things like that sit with me. And those are the kind of things that I love about whiskey, because when I think about whiskey, I don't just think about my friends. I don't just think about the stuff that I've got back here. I think about the memories that I have, be it with family and friends. And so it kind of hit home to me, and it kind of set me over the edge to say, this is what I like. And so that's kind of where I'm feeling on these two. But again, I think you are in a position to not go wrong with either one. Both of these barrels will sell. One's going to have the people who maybe can or aren't used to the single malt that might be able to drink this and be more approachable, while the other one, those are your single malt fans, they're going to buy that one no matter what. They're going to really like that.
All right, so listen. So I mean, it's been a long time, but I used to watch a lot of The Voice with my family, and I feel like, here I am. And fucking Adam Levine just put me, Blake Shelton, in a very terrible position as I have to pick between which singer is going to advance, because I thought I was zeroing in on number one, which is barrel 21190, because I thought I was doing that more for the people. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And what you just did is you just reminded me of the very first demo recording I made in a cheap studio in Oklahoma when I hadn't made it yet, and why I made that demo. And so this is a very difficult decision, but I feel like what you're telling me is that you're telling me that 17800, the third barrel that we tried, is willing to exist in a space that pulls people in, but is also going to challenge them at the same time. And I feel like that's probably a little more of my personality, perhaps. And so as I take one last sip of that, people can drink this. People can drink this.
Really can.
So I feel like everyone should write down what they want to write down. But I'm assuming that Raymond and I are on the same path of choosing 17800 or barrel number 3. Is that accurate, Raymond? Is that the one you're leaning towards? Barrel number 3. Where are you at, Alex? Where are you at, Jared? Where are you at, Ben? Which one did you pick?
Who are we supposed to? Ooh, Ben, number 1. Okay.
I was going to take a guess. I was going to say Ben was 1. I was going to say Alex. Alex is my curveball. I think Jared's going to go 3, and Alex is my curveball. But I'm going to think Alex is on 3 as well, man.
Oh, 3, yes.
What do you got, Jared?
Oh,
hey!
What?
Oh, hey, everybody! Jared just pulled out a Sun Ra record and said, "Who wants to dance to this?"
Oh my God.
God, this is the most fun I've ever had on a Wednesday night.
Oh man. I know 2 got crossed off early, and man.
No, but listen. I want to say something, because I think that you picked number 2 especially for me. Maybe I'm giving our thing too much credit, but that's the direction I kind of pushed you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that barrel, but yeah, Hold
on. Yes, and I want to say this too. I'm not interrupting you, Jared. But what I say is, Skin, you were leaning towards 2 and you started thinking, well, I want something that everyone can enjoy. And I think to make this your own, if you feel like you want to go with 2, don't worry about who likes it or who doesn't like it, because I think people will like it because it's Balcones and it's you, and it's like your recommendation, and it might make it extra special. So I'm not trying to sway you, but
no, well, let me. That's fair, Ben. But I don't want me and Jared to be the only ones drinking this. And I would say that.
Can I point something out?
Absolutely.
That guy that you're just talking about, Jared, he happens to be really good at picking out whiskey that everyone on the planet fucking loves. So I promise you, if he likes it and you like it, it wouldn't just be you too.
And I thank you, but I'm used to just like going and listening to whatever record I want to by myself or drinking. I mean, I'm used to that. I'm okay with it. But I was afraid that number 2 was inaccessible. Not in excess like Michael Hutchins.
Yeah.
I thought it was like inaccessible, and I don't want to say that. I thought it was more micro than wider delta, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a little more niche for sure. It's not a crowd pleaser.
I want to, but there's different kind of crowds,
Sure.
right, Jared?
One of the nice things about, Raymond can speak to this too, but one of the nice things about single barrels is there's not really that many bottles. I mean, you're looking at usually like 200 or less bottles out of any given barrel. So yeah, is the question between Raymond's crew, Ben and Skin fans, Balcones fans, are there enough people to go out and buy 1 or 2 bottles in a trip and take care of, 180 something bottle? Like, yeah, that's not a big deal. I wouldn't worry too hard about things.
Man, this is even getting more difficult because I'm getting text messages from people that are like, don't be a P, go with number 2.
Yeah. Okay. We haven't heard from Alex in a minute too. Alex, what are your thoughts on this relative to where the discussion is now? Clearly, Skin's favorite is 2, Jared's favorite is 2, but they're worried that it's something that is so niche that it may be just something that they're into, but Jared reassured Skin and said, hey, we're only talking about 180 bottles. Don't worry about that. But where are you?
But let me say that. Hold on. Thank you, Ben. But let me say this. There's beauty to the accessible things, right? I mean, there's beauty to all of it. So I'm truly confounded because I don't feel like I can pick a wrong barrel here, if that makes sense. And the other thing that I'm kind of wrestling with is that my favorite Balcones expression is the peated Texas single malt. Like that's the.
Okay. I got an idea.
I don't think you do.
Because we're all over the board, we have now picked 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. There have been different people that have voted for 1 and 2 and 3. And we've kind of have all voted for all 3. I think in this unique case, maybe the details of the barrels would help us make the decision, and maybe and go ahead and pull the curtain back and let's learn about each of these barrels. And then maybe that'll give you the clarity you need.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, good call.
I like this story.
All right. So barrel 1, 21,190. This is, I don't have the details on what ex-bourbon it was in. We pretty much exclusively messed with Four Roses and Buffalo Trace. So it would have been one of those. And then it was transferred into an unnamed apple brandy.
Oh, damn it. Are you?
Oh,
yeah, for another 2 years. So
damn it.
All of these are hovering around the 4-year-old range. So that's equal time in ex-bourbon and then apple brandy.
I'm pissed.
That you're pissed you didn't say apple brandy?
I'm just
detect that.
I was so perplexed by these that just again, Jared pulled out the stops for these, and I'm glad that we all got buckled into this roller coaster ride, and the 5 of us are here. So
okay, no doubt. Okay,
this is very difficult because all my nerd friends are shouting for me to pick number 2.
Well, let's hear about it. Let's hear about number 2.
Number 2 is going to be, once again, this is ex-bourbon. I'd have to go back and pull up a spreadsheet to find out if it was 4 roses of Buffalo Trace. This is peated. This is the third round of peated we did that was 99 ppm for all you peat nerds. This is peated Golden Promise at 99 ppm that was in bourbon for just under 3 years and has spent the last 3 months in Sauterne casks. So does light dessert wine, French dessert wine.
Y'all remember at the beginning, I told you your Scotch fans are just going to sit there and do this in their chair when they.
Yeah.
They want number 2, don't they, Raymond?
I think so.
And then the last one, number 3, 17,800 is slightly older. So yeah, the second one, second peated one is about 3 years old. The other one is about 4 years old. It's spent the first 3 years in Virgin American, and then has been in a French oak barrel.
Yep, you called it.
That used to. It's a French oak barrel that used to house Rumble.
Oh,
that's what it's been in for the last year.
Wow.
And that one's at 65 ppm. So that's a lower peating level. It's about 2/3 the peat level of number 2.
I just want to say something.
I'm sorry.
I got to jump in.
No, go.
First of all, I can't believe the links you went to for this, Jared. Thank you so much for the barrels that you chose, and good God, you rolled out some special stuff. I would just say this: you're talking about a limited supply batch. There's no way enough people will be able to get their hands on this that want it. There's going to be way more demand than supply, no matter which one you pick. But I'm sitting here watching this going, Jared liked number 2. Skin, you clearly like number 2 the most. 5 of us liked all 3 of them. They're all unique in different ways. But I'm almost going to be pissed off if you don't choose 2, because it's such a cool conversation point. Like, we can reference it on the show, man. Go back and watch how this happened. When we chose number 2, it was this long process. And hell, we might buy all the bottles ourselves.
I know. Yeah.
Some.
Because I think I could buy the bottles and mark them up and make a nice profit off of this.
Skin conies.
Some might say hashtag max profits.
Yeah.
Flippers. Yeah. Flippers is with 2 Z's, 3 Z's.
Easy. Yeah. Damn it. This is fun. I've enjoyed tonight. This is more complex and more explorative.
Tory.
I say exploratory, but I used to be a diver.
Yes. I don't know. This is fun. So
where are you right now, Raymond? I want to know where Raymond.
Are we gonna write it down and hold it up?
Yeah, let's rewrite it again. I want to hear from Raymond one more time. Yeah. Now that all this conversation has happened, where are you at?
Yeah, man. So here's the deal. When we talked about 2 earlier, I mentioned, your space side and maybe even your Islay a little bit. Scotch is what it reminded me of. And so what Jared just told us about the barrel, completely can see that. And so your Scotch heads are going to absolutely love number 2. And I think your Scotch heads are really going to like number 3 as well. And I think you're going to bring in some other people into number 3. And that's what makes this really, really hard. I almost want to be selfish and say, like, checkbook this thing out and just buy them both, tell you to buy them both. I mean,
no doubt.
It's and you're right. I think the demand is going to be far greater than the amount of bottles that are going to be available. It's really tough, man. I love the balance of 3. It's the beautiful middle ground of 1 and 2. And so it's the beautiful color of it. The finish of it was just absolutely amazing. But I've told people this before. I've told Alex this before. I can't remember if I told Jared to his face before, but the best product that they make, in my opinion, is their peated single malt. It is the best product they make. And that's what number 2 is very reminiscent of. And so that is what makes 2 so special. It's so good. And that's a very unique barrel. You'd probably regret walking away from it.
All right. I don't even give a shit when you guys hold it up. I'm going number 2.
Oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. He's going number 2.
Okay, so I did this.
You can't do that. You can't. Oh,
That
it's
shit's upside down.
The barrel's upside down.
Dude.
Do like this,
Yeah. Congratulations. Dude, Skin, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you went with number 2. You followed your heart, and it's the one you like the most. It's going to make it more special, and it'll allow us more conversation to talk about it. It just makes it more of a collector's item. I'm super stoked you chose 2.
Well, me too, man. I was trying to I was trying to be a man of the people here, but it was the aggressiveness of number 2 appealed to me. But I don't want to let down the peoples. And then I started getting text messages from the peoples, and they're like, "What are you doing? Pick number 2, you moron."
People have spoken.
People have spoken. So we did it. We went number 2. We did it.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, Jared?
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Kind of like
All right.
Skin's first dump. His parents are like, he went number 2. He went number 2. Yay! He did it.
For a second, I thought you said Skin's first dunk, and
No.
that's
I'm
still
not holding a tennis ball right now.
yeah. His first dunk is still somewhere out there in the future. I assume.
We're still out there to be had on a 7-foot goal.
Ben, I want you to know something. You've got a reservation card. You need to sign that bad boy. I'm signing mine right now.
And then we're going to sell it.
Yep.
Autograph.
Yeah.
So when we put on behalf of, can I put the Ben and Skin Show?
Sure.
Ooh. Please.
Man, if life ever gets back to normal, Ben, Skin, you guys may or may not know this, but we've got kind of regular seats up at to check out some Mavs games. Of course, I usually only go up there if the Spurs are there, but we got to go up and watch a game sometime.
Heck yeah.
No.
Theoretically.
Yeah, and good God, if when the world gets back to normal, you guys have that speakeasy at
Yep.
Globe Life Field,
Yep.
and I would love to go watch a Rangers game in that new stadium with you guys.
Yes.
That's happening.
We make
Yeah.
some magic happen.
All right. So this has been a little over 2 hours of whiskey talk, and it feels like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I've loved every second of this. And I truly, truly, truly cannot wait for the folks in the DFW Whiskey Club with Raymond and the folks with the Ben and Skin Facebook group. I hope we have the exact same number of members. I want to cross-pollinate as much as possible. But I hope people have enjoyed this as much as we have. It has been extraordinary and exciting. And I can't believe I'm getting to sit here and taste these samplers and get to do them. Just awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that and just say, Jared, thank you.
Hey, man.
Alex, unbelievable, man. You guys rolled out the red carpet for us. And like we said at the beginning, absolutely not worthy. It was such a fun adventure to go on. I cannot believe the twists and turns of this thing. It was fascinating. And Raymond, you are worthy to go on this. And God bless you, brother. Thank you for joining us for this thing. It was awesome, man. Looking forward to learning more about whiskey from your club too.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this. Phone is blowing up, as I'm sure y'all's is as well. And everyone just was really excited for this unique opportunity to watch along. This was truly a memorable experience. I've been to distilleries, I've done tastings here at my bar, I've done tastings at restaurants, but to do something like this was, man, this is really kind of your once a lifetime fun, unique opportunity. And what's really cool about Balcones guys, and which I know these guys really well, but as someone who's done a lot of barrels, they set the bar, man. It's going to be really hard to pass that up. And Jared said it earlier after I was talking about picking something on profile. But what I love about Balcones is that most others don't do. A lot of people, they experiment here and there, but they don't let you taste their experimental barrels. Jared's like, here you go, man. Taste it. Buy that shit. If you don't buy that shit, you're dumb. And I love that though, because we got to taste something so unique, and you won't get that with other places. So yeah, this was an awesome experience. Thank you guys so much for inviting us. Right there, DFW Whiskey Club representing. Thank you guys.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
So, Skin,
Yes.
I can't leave the stream without us talking a little bit of.
No. Do you guys want to do National Vinyl Day?
Yes. Okay. Damn it. Yes. And I know, Jared, I'm sorry you're not home.
Yep.
And I know you probably have a couple things that you would probably throw this way, but I thought maybe this would come up. So, Skin, your record collection is way better than mine.
No,
So-
it's not. It's appropriate to me, just as yours is appropriate to you.
That's still an insult because yours is way better than mine.
No, you're going Charlie Crockett. You're going local.
Damn it! You can.
You're holding it up, asshole.
I know. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of new and old. So my new is Charlie Crockett. So he actually signed this for me and actually wrote it to my son, Eamon. We saw him live here in Oak Cliff, and he did an acoustic set. And we brought our son Eamon, who's almost 4, who is obsessed with Charlie Crockett. Charlie Crockett played because Jared is an awesome guy and made it happen. Charlie Crockett played at Balcones. That was for our 10th anniversary, right?
Was it the 10th anniversary, 2018? I can't remember.
I think so, yeah. So this is my new, and then my old is I have an original Thriller.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and so it's framed because I don't. There's no way I need to be touching this, but it's an original Thriller record because I do love Michael Jackson. So that's my new and my old
Nice.
contributions to today. Support vinyl, support local when you can, especially Charlie Crockett because he's so damn good.
He's badass.
Yeah.
He's a really great guy too. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna make mine super quick. This is the Erica Badu 12-inch for the Killer. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but she autographed it right there. All right, 2008. And if you flip it over on the back, there's a thank you of like a bunch of people. And right there, it may or may not say DJ Skin.
Hey.
Now you're just showing off.
Which
I'm showing up.
Now that's the record version of barrel number 2. So
also,
Bless you, Jared, you son of a bitch. I love you.
so
Hey, guys, thank you so much. This was truly thrilling and exhilarating. And I mean, God, I can't believe that Ben and I are lucky enough to get to go through this with Jared and Alex and also Raymond.
Yeah, dude. It was
This to be
it was a
available
thriller.
to our listeners.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a thriller. It was like Basic
a hint.
Instinct.
it's like a handheld SM57. You know what I'm saying?
It was like Basic Instinct, and when Alex crossed his legs, same exact feeling. I mean, it was exciting.
So much.
Just trying to figure out who's wearing pants and who's not wearing pants.
This was awesome. Thank you guys.
Cool.
This was
Thank you.
incredible.
Yeah.
All right, I love you guys. Keep your ears and eyes peeled. Oh, look at the DFW Whiskey Club. Well done, Benny boy.
Right there.
And, Whiskey Talk will be
Nice.
back for episode 7. Please let everyone you know about this. If you have a friend that loves whiskey and loves spirits, heck, you just saw Raymond sipping on some a Berlin.
Roller Town.
Yeah, Roller Town if you love
Let's
beer.
go.
We are here for the peoples. We're here to imbibe. So thank you for the time. And we will talk to you very soon for episode 7 of Whiskey Talk right here on the internet.
Cheers.